from over here. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Sikorsky, and I think I have a unique perspective, being an American living here in Finland for 28 years. I think, as you had correctly said, that as Europe drives to be a more diverse nation, you need more diverse opinions and freedom to speak them. Now, coming from an American perspective, this type of event would not even have to be arranged there, because it's already a de facto thing. The people themselves know that they have the freedom. They have the freedom to speak. Even though the media in the United States did not publish, unfortunately, did not publish the cartoons for the correct, for whatever reason that they had, but the people themselves knew that they had the right to publish those cartoons for whatever reason they thought was necessary. So my question to you is, seeing that we're under really a very difficult time here with all kinds of calamity and crisis and so forth, that now is the time for us to push for a type of First Amendment. In the United States, the First Amendment, freedom of speech, is the First Amendment, not the 7th, not the 8th, not the 10th, but the first. Is the cornerstone of any free society. Anybody who thinks differently is wrong. So my question to you is, do we need a First Amendment push in Europe?
An excellent question, and one more thing, just please keep the questions and comments as brief, as concise as possible. Thank you.
I think that's what you call a leading question. No, I agree with you. I would welcome a First Amendment in Europe. And I admire the American First Amendment tradition, and what makes the United States different from Europe is that the First Amendment cannot be balanced against other values, while in European law the right to freedom of expression has to be balanced against other rights. That's not the case in the United States. It doesn't mean that you don't have limitations on speech in the United States. And I think, in fact, that when it comes to Europe's historical experience with the Holocaust, which is the justification for hate speech laws today, we could learn something from the United States. Because if you look at the interpretation of the Supreme Court of the First Amendment throughout the 20th century in the United States, it has been widened. You have been allowed to say more and more without being prosecuted in the United States. And at the same time, America has grown less racist. You have your first black president, you had your first black Secretary of State. It's not a criminal offense to have interracial marriages, and so on and so forth. Racism is still a problem, but America is far less racist today than it was 100 years ago. And nevertheless, at the same time, free speech have been widened. I think we can learn something from that in Europe, but I think the problem in the United States is that you may have the First Amendment, but the social pressure on speech is far higher in the United States than it is in Europe. That if you say something offensive, you get fired. You may get excluded from a community. And on campuses, the elite of the United States, you have a new culture that in fact promotes the notion that students do have a right not to be offended. You have introduced something called trigger warnings, which means that professors have an obligation to inform their students about offensive material in their teaching, which, for instance, means that some students called for a trigger warning of Mrs. Dalloway, Virginia Woolf's great novel, or The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald, which I think is crazy, frankly. So I think America has a problem when it comes to social pressure on free speech, but you have the best possible protection when it comes to the law. In Europe, what is being said and the law, there is, Europeans are very close to the law in the way they apply free speech in their daily life, even though I think there are too many limitations and regulations on speech in Europe. And the number is growing, in fact.